Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and I'm really excited to be live on the channel yet again. I know it's been a little while since the last time we have had a live stream, but I'm really happy to be in here. Donovan, welcome to the stream as well. He says, yo, glad to have you in here, Donovan. And it's been a crazy offseason up to this point. Obviously, things have cooled down a little bit in the NBA, which is why we've had a little bit less content coming out on the channel. And I've kind of taken a little bit of a brief refresher from YouTube just for a couple of weeks. But we're back with some big content, especially coming up here in the near future. And I thought today would be a great day to really focus on, maybe just having a live stream, talking with some of the viewers, answering some of your guys' questions that maybe you have that still linger from the off season, maybe going into this next season as well. I'm very excited about all the potential outcomes that we could see going into this next season, whether we're talking about some potential trades, including Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook, some of those big names still out there on the trade market. But then you also look at some of the other storylines in the NBA right now. How are the rookies going to perform? How are some of these other guys going to go out and vie for next contract? What's going to really dedicate this season, or really what's going to dictate this season, when it comes to winning and losing, what teams are going to make big pushes? We're going to talk about all that and more. No More Kings says, sup man, glad to have you in here. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to smash that like button and also subscribe to Utility Sports. Really glad to have all of you in here. We're going to be talking about the NBA. Mary Ortiz, welcome. She's a big time Mavs and Magic fan there, as you can see from her profile picture. So Mary, glad to have you in here yet again. She's been watching the channel since the NBA trade deadline, I believe. That was the first time she was in one of the live streams. So Mary, glad to see you still sticking around here as we get over to August. And I know the content's been a little drier lately, but make sure you guys are going to be staying tuned because we do have a lot of fun announcements coming up, which there's a lot of exciting things that are going to be coming to the channel here in the near future. Now, I know, again, things have been a little bit drier. There's not been as much content. And kind of the NBA is at a point right now where we're at a standstill. We're kind of waiting for the NFL to get going here. So the channel overall is a little bit slower here, especially in August. Same thing happened last August as well. It's just kind of a drier time period for the year. But I figured we could, throw in some live streams. And I've got a few ideas, too, that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the live stream. But what I really want is I want your guys' questions in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, go throw them in the comment section, and I will be answering any and all questions you have about the NBA. You can talk about NBA draft. You can talk about some of the rookies. What do I expect from certain players? Which teams are going to be good? Which teams are pretenders, contenders, all of that and more. We can talk about every single little thing going into this season. I'm very excited about this upcoming year. I think it's going to be a great year for NBA basketball. I've got some stuff planned to talk about, but I really want it to be kind of a viewer-driven live stream today. So whatever you guys want to know about, any questions you have, I would love to hear your questions and your comments. And maybe you can just tell me some of the things you think about what's going to happen in the upcoming season. Maybe you have some predictions for some of the best rookies, or, some guys who can make All-NBA for the first time, or maybe first-time All-Stars. Some fun discussion like that. And again, it's going to be a kind of a laid-back live stream here today, but just talk some hoops and really get excited about all that. Atlanta Analyst, glad to have you in here. He says, Sheldon, how's it going, my guy? It's going awesome. Glad to have you in here, Atlanta Analyst. We'll have to stay in touch. I've been staying in touch with some of the stuff you've been doing, so make sure to reach out to me after this. And for those of you who are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and also go give us a follow on Twitter. Link is in the description for that. No More King says, do you personally think there will be any more big name trades? I do think there will be one more. We'll talk about exactly which one I think it could be. Banjito says, what's up, my guy? Glad to have you back in here, Banjito. I know it's been a while since we've had a live stream like this, but I'm really excited to be back. I just took a little bit of a hiatus from recording, kind of got my mind right again, refreshed myself, and just took a little bit of a brief break from talking about the NBA just for a couple weeks after Summer League. I just needed a little bit of time to, kind of reset myself, get some things ready. We got a lot of big stuff coming and a lot of really good plans that I think are going to really enhance the channel. So I'm really, really excited about that. Rule number 20. Oh, and also for Zion, no, I do not think Zion is going to be MVP this year, but I think he'll definitely be a good contributor. Atlanta Analyst says, yeah, man, for sure. And Rahul number 27 says, who are the teams that can realistically make a trade for Kevin Durant? Here we go. We're getting into the trade discussions for Kevin Durant here. That's a great question, Rahul. And back to what No More Kings 1 says, do I think there'll be a big name trade this offseason? I do. I don't think it's going to be Kevin Durant, though. But we'll talk about what some of the potential ones could be. What could that look like, right? There's some options out there. Now, the team that's obviously been really linked to him has been Phoenix. He wants to go to the Phoenix Suns. He wants to play with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And they'd probably be the title contenders, title favorites, actually, if they landed Kevin Durant. A lot of teams, honestly, if they could find a way to land Kevin Durant without giving up too much of their current roster, they'd probably be in the conversation to at least be title favorite. The Suns for sure would. Latinx Travel Club, glad to have you back in the stream as well. Huge shout out to them. But for the teams that can make a deal for KD, realistically, I think the Suns are still in it. However, I think they're going to have to wait a little bit here because I think some of the other packages are maybe a little bit more intriguing. For the Suns' perspective, what you'd be willing to offer, 3 or 4 first-round picks, a pick swap or 2, and then you have the Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dario Saric for salary cap filler, that collection of stuff. Jay Crowder for money purposes. You have a lot of different players and young talent that you could throw out the door to make a deal for Kevin Durant work. Now, do I think that they should be considered the favorite at this point to land Kevin Durant? No, I do not, because I think there's a few other teams, including one that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. Not the team I'm about to mention, though, the Miami Heat. I do not think the Miami Heat are really in the running for Kevin Durant. I just don't think they have enough. With the complication of Bam Adebayo not being able to get traded on his designated rookie max extension to play with Ben Simmons, it complicates everything there. So Miami probably not going to be able to get it done. So when it comes to a team that I think is very realistic, I think the Toronto Raptors. I've been saying this for a month now, basically since the first week that the Kevin Durant rumors came out. Even though he said he wanted to go to play for Miami or Phoenix, I have been very vocal that I think realistically the best option is Toronto. The Raptors could give up OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., and all the draft picks in the world, and throw in some salary cap filler. You have a done deal there. The Nets get 2 really good young wings in Gary Trent and OG Anunoby, which is a really good package, and is essentially very equivalent to what the Suns can offer anyway in terms of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. And you have to look at it and say, well, Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. are both capable of scoring 18-plus points a game. So those are 2 very good players. And if you find a way, if you're Brooklyn, to bring in other talent in a Kyrie Irving trade, maybe you have a pretty decent young roster with a pretty good core, and then you get all the draft picks as well on top of it. I don't think Scottie Barnes is realistic. If I'm Masai Ujiri, I would hang up the phone if Sean Marks in Brooklyn asked for Scottie Barnes. I would not do that because I would rather have the next 15 years of Scottie Barnes than the next 2 years of Kevin Durant. Latinx Travel Club also wants to know your thoughts on the offseason pro leagues in Miami, Nike Pro. Some of them are a lot of fun. I think, the Drew League as well. Obviously, I had LeBron. They've had some good athletes come through there. DeJounte Murray and Paulo Banchero chopping it up a little bit. That's been fun. I even though I haven't been recording as much NBA content, I haven't really stepped away from the NBA, if that makes sense. I've been watching everything, staying on top of all the latest news and rumors and all that. So I think with DeJounte and Paulo, that's I love that beef. It's fun. It's interesting. DeJounte had some very strong words after their little run-in at one of those pro leagues. So I think these pro leagues are awesome. It's a good opportunity for these NBA players to go out, play some basketball, really showcase some of their talent, and it draws a lot of eyes. People love watching these guys play, and it's a really good opportunity to let people who can't necessarily afford to go to NBA games all the time, gives them a good chance to go get standing room at a smaller gym where one of these pro leagues is, playing at, whether that's, like you said, Miami, Nike Pro, Drew League, whatever it may be. It's a really good opportunity. So I really love the overall feel and the fact that some of these players are taking some time out of their day to go play, which is just flat out good. You'd expect these athletes to play a lot of basketball, but to do it in a platform and setting that allows certain people to go watch them when maybe they wouldn't have the opportunity to normally do that. Rule number 27 says, do you think teams will meet Nets' demand for Kevin Durant? No, I don't think so. But I think the Nets' demand will change as Kevin Durant forces his way out. I think the Nets will likely lessen their asking price to get off of the headache. Now, it's not like they're going to say, oh, we're just going to give up Kevin Durant for nothing. That's not what I'm saying here. My hair is fighting me to the absolute brim today, so sorry about this, guys. But when it comes to Kevin Durant, you're not going to get a Devin Booker for Kevin Durant. That's just not what they're looking to do. So realistically, you're going to have to, settle a little bit if you're Brooklyn, which you don't want to do, but you have to. The Atlanta analyst says if the Suns wait till Ayton is tradable, that's the offer. Ayton, Bridges, Crowder, Cam, and Payne, and 4 firsts and a few swaps. That just is too much to me. Honestly, if I'm Phoenix, you think about this. You're trading your starting center, you're trading your starting small forward, your starting power forward, your backup small forward, and your backup point guard for one guy. Yes, it's Kevin Durant. He's also 34 years old. So I get that that's probably what Brooklyn would at least demand. But I don't really realistically think that Brooklyn can afford to, or that Phoenix can afford to do that. We've seen this story so many times where, Team A strips down all their pieces to go get star. Think about the New York Knicks when they did this with Carmelo Anthony, right? They traded Raymond Felton, Danilo Gallinari, collection of other young players, pieces. And they were in the midst of a really good season with Amari Stoudemire. They get Carmelo Anthony, and they kind of never really went anywhere. Yes, they had Carmelo and Amari's health kind of fell off toward the back end there. But the moment you give up 4 out of maybe 4 or 5 guys from your 8-man rotation or 9-man rotation kind of here, I'm not really worried about campaign because they have Shamet and I've just never been a huge campaign guy myself. So I'm not really worried about that. But when you look at Ayton, Bridges, Crowder, and Cam Johnson, now those are 4 seriously good players. That's 4 of their 6 best players right now. So that's really tough to do, just in my mind, giving that up. I think realistically what they'll end up settling on is Bridges, Crowder, Cam, Saric, 4 firsts, 3 swaps or something, and then some cap filler in there like campaign or whatever. No More Kings one says Rookie of the Year predictions, top 3. I've been saying it. I think Paulo Banchero is going to be the Rookie of the Year. I was saying that before he got drafted. I was saying that throughout the process that I thought he's the most NBA ready guy. Now Chet Holmgren, if he makes enough noise defensively, I wouldn't be surprised about it. But I think Paulo Banchero should be considered the favorite. Jaden Ivey probably right in there. And Keegan Murray, Keegan Murray's very NBA ready. I was saying that too throughout the process. I still think that was the incorrect pick by the Kings, but I never thought he was a bad player. And I think people misconstrue those two things. You can disagree with a selection at a certain spot in the draft, but it doesn't mean I think the player's bad. It's not like I had, Keegan Murray at 20th on my board. I had him in the top 10. Keegan Murray's a very good player. And I think he's very NBA ready. He was a sophomore coming out who put up good numbers, good production at Iowa. I just think that, he's probably going to be in the Rookie of the Year mix for sure. We'll see if anything actually, really comes out of it. Latinx Travel Club, thank you so much for sending the super sticker there with you. A little good luck charm. That's absolutely awesome. So Latinx, huge thank you to you for the $10 super sticker. Really appreciate everything you do there for us on the channel. I know it's not your first time donating to the channel, so it really does go a long way in helping us really continue to push out content. And again, like I've said, and we're going to talk about it very soon here, some of the upcoming stuff on the channel I think is going to be phenomenal content. I'm saying tenfold times better what we've been doing on the channel, especially in the next couple months when everything kind of gets flipped over to what we're planning on working on. I think it's going to be really great content for you guys. So hopefully you guys do enjoy that. Rule number 27 says, I don't believe the rumors about Jaylen Brown being offered to the Nets for Kevin Durant. Yeah, I don't either. Part of the issue here is, people see the word offer and they're like, oh my gosh, Brad Stevens says, we'll trade you Jaylen Brown and 3 for, no, that didn't happen. When a report comes out that there's been talks about an offer about Jaylen Brown, what it means is the Nets and Sean Marks called Boston and they're like, okay, for Kevin Durant, we want Jason Tatum. And then the Celtics are like, yeah, that's not happening. And the Celtics are like, okay, we'll give you Marcus Smart, Derek White, and 4 firsts. And then the Nets are like, yeah, that's not happening. And then what happens there in the middle is they both sides kind of look at each other and realize, well, we're not giving you Tatum, but you want more than Smart and White. You're probably going to want Jaylen Brown, right? That's kind of where the situation arises. Both sides understand value. And both sides understand that, Jason Tatum's too much of an ask. He's going to be untouchable. Jaylen Brown's not good enough to be untouchable in a trade for Kevin Durant. So I don't think that ultimately Boston's going to do it. But I do think Jaylen Brown, conceivably, his name makes sense in this trade in terms of, the talent, the level. Maybe Boston becomes the best team in the league if they made that trade. But at the end of the day, I don't think Boston really risks the long-term future doing something like that. Atlanta Last says Boston could get something done easily. I think Toronto could also easily get a deal done today. IMO. I think Brooklyn would want Siakam and OG and a lot of picks. I could see that too. And honestly, if I'm Toronto, I would be 100% A-okay with giving up Siakam. Yes, I know he just made All-NBA third team. But if it's Siakam and OG and I get to keep Gary Trent Jr. with Fred VanVleet and Scotty Barnes, and I still have, Precious Achiuwa and some of the size and length that they have, also bringing in Otto Porter this offseason, they've got enough length and depth then where they could survive losing OG and Siakam, especially if you're bringing in a talent like Kevin Durant, who is a top 5 player in the world still. Atlanta Analyst also says, if I were Brooklyn, I'd just reshape the whole roster and fire Nash. I don't think he's a good coach, honestly, but move KD, Kyrie, and Ben and reshape the roster and move on from the drama. What I would do, I don't think I would move on from Ben Simmons, just because, not because I'm like, oh, Ben Simmons is the next Giannis. Some people do believe that still, which is a yikes. But with Simmons, the issue is his trade value is so low right now that I'm not going to just give him up, especially since, his contracts look like as a negative. If you trade him now, you're like probably going to get like 50 cents for the dollar. And I just think that, hey, you keep Simmons. He's good defensively. Maybe you make one of those KD trades for, say, an OG Anunoby and a Pascal Siakam, or an OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr. and, cap filler, or, XYZ, whatever KD move you make, you're going to get good players back, right? And you trade Kyrie. Honestly, if I were Brooklyn, I would want Russell Westbrook. And I know this is going to sound really ridiculous, but Russell Westbrook's really good with the ball in his hands, and he helps teams win games when he has the ball in his hands. Now, was he the right fit with the Lakers? No, obviously not. And I knew that the moment they traded for him, I said that they were going to be bad. I was probably the only person on all of YouTube when everyone looked at the Lakers' big three that I was one of the few people saying that team's going to be terrible. And they ended up being terrible, which was no surprise to me. They had no depth. They had no roster fit. They didn't have shooting. They didn't have perimeter defense. They didn't have paint protection. And one injury was enough to throw their season away, and we ultimately saw that with Anthony Davis missing most of the games last year. They were a team that just wasn't good. And I think that, if you put Russell Westbrook in a different situation, he can go back to being a 20, 10, and 10 type of guy in a way that is productive and helps you win. And you might be saying, well, why does Brooklyn even want to win? Because they don't have any other picks, right? Houston has everything that they own, basically. So you don't want to bottom out. And Russell Westbrook, the next 2-3 years, can help you do that. I think it's actually a really good opportunity for Brooklyn to move off of the Kyrie drama, send him to LA, get hopefully a future first from the Lakers back, maybe Talen Horton-Tucker if you can swing that, and rebuild this team and just try and go from there. I know Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook's probably a little bit of an awkward fit. I don't really care. They're both two good individual basketball players. And I think realistically, if you're looking at it, Ben Simmons hasn't played for a year. Russell Westbrook has. I would let Russell Westbrook have the ball in his hands and just try and be competitive. And I think he's good enough to let you be competitive. Banjito says, Tyler Hero is probably the most overrated trade asset right now. He's definitely in the conversation for that, for sure. I also think that DeAndre Ayton is a very overrated trade asset. In fact, a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about DeAndre Ayton as a negative contract. You go look at what he's making compared to what Andrew Wiggins is making, when Andrew Wiggins was considered a terrible contract and a net negative player in terms of his value for a trade. Like, DeAndre Ayton's making $34 million a year. People laugh that Gobert makes $38 million. Gobert is an all-NBA level center. DeAndre Ayton isn't and is making $34 million now. The Pacers handcuffed the Phoenix Suns. They did a phenomenal job in that. And they left it at a point now where Phoenix is kind of stuck with him. And honestly, like, what if the Brooklyn Nets don't want DeAndre Ayton? Who's going to trade for Ayton? Nobody. And if Ayton's not happy there in Phoenix and he starts causing a little bit of drama, I think we could have a little bit of a long season ahead of us. No More Kings 1 says, Would you take the over or under on Cade averaging 21? I would hit the over. I think last year he averaged about 16? Let me check that for sure. I think he averaged about 16 points on the dot last season. Actually 17. His numbers trended up a little bit. So 17.4 last season for Cade. I'm definitely taking the over on that just because Cade Cunningham is somebody who, once he settles in somewhere, he starts playing better and better. We saw that at Oklahoma State. First week or two there, he wasn't playing great and then kind of settled in and really figured things out. First month in the NBA was, I wouldn't say bad, but a little shakier than maybe you'd expect for the first overall pick. But then he played phenomenal for 80% of the season. So I think this next year, he'll be even more established. He has Jaden Ivey there to take off some of the pressure. I think that really Cade Cunningham is going to be one of the better players in the league. And I think he's probably going to be closer to averaging 23, 24 points a game even than just flat out 21. He says, No More Kings also says, I hate that players don't seem to like Nash as a coach. He's my favorite point guard growing up, best passer ever. He was so phenomenal to watch as a player, extremely talented. I think the one issue is he's got a little bit too much Mike D'Antoni in him in terms of his coaching style, where he's going to play his best players a ton and just say, okay, go be great. I think that when it comes to X's and O's, he's not as distinguished as maybe you would expect from a MVP level point guard. Atlanta analyst says, yeah, I'd move Kyrie versus losing him for nothing, but getting Russ and THT with maybe OG and Siakam with Ben is a new look. Exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking here too. I think that ultimately if you can make a move where if you're Brooklyn and you can swing your team into a collection of young 20 to 25-year-olds and, Russell Westbrook kind of running the show for a year or two to kind of mitigate some of the risk of your team falling off and giving some high picks to Houston, I think it's probably one of the better outcomes, honestly, just given how dramatic this situation is. Atlanta analyst says, what do you think your Mavs should do at guard? I think they need a secondary option. They definitely do. I really wanted Goran Dragic. I don't know why they're so hesitant to sign Goran Dragic. It just didn't make sense. Ultimately, he ended up with the Chicago Bulls, who now have like 8 point guards on their roster, which is definitely interesting. But we know Billy Donovan loves his guards, so we'll see what they do with that. As for options out there, there's not really a lot. So what I think here, this is what I think is going to happen to Atlanta analysts. I think and this is way different from what most people are actually expecting and most experts are saying for the Mavs. I think their starting lineup is going to be Luka Doncic at the 1. At the 2, they're going to play Reggie Bullock. At the 3, they're going to play Dorian Finney-Smith, which you're like, wow, there's no ball handling there outside of Luka, and that's correct. At the 4, it'll be Christian Wood. At the 5, it'll be JaVale McGee. And then what they're going to do for secondary, tertiary options. So when it's that starting lineup, Luka's going to have the ball in his hands all the time. He's going to run a ton of pick and rolls. He's got shooters there in Bullock, Finney-Smith. He's got a pick and pop guy with Wood. He's got a pick and roll guy with McGee. And then off the bench, they're going to bring Dinwiddie and Tim Hardaway Jr. to kind of share the ball. And the point of that then is, at any point in the game, they could bring either one of those guys on the floor, share it with Luka, and really work off of that. But I think the starting lineup is going to be very Luka-centered. Rule number 27 says, as a Raps fan, I'm not a fan of Siakam because against good teams, he underperforms. He's looking for max extension. Trade Pascal. OG picks for Kevin Durant. I see the benefit in that. Michael Kerr says, we're not giving up Spicy P or OG Anunoby. I think that you can. If we talked about this back in the day when Kawhi Leonard was coming off of injury, I'm sure a lot of Raptors fans said, oh, there's no way we can give up DeMar DeRozan. I really look at this as the same situation. Pascal Siakam equals DeMar, and Kevin Durant equals Kawhi. That's kind of the situation we're in right now. And giving up OG Anunoby, it hurts. But if you have a lineup of Van Vliet, Trent, Scotty, KD, Achua, that might be good enough to win a finals this year. Nas King says, can't get rid of Siakam. I understand that, but, there's going to be, I don't know. Kevin Durant's just so much better than Siakam. It's not even really close. Banjito says, y'all have Jaden Hardy. You should be fine. Jaden Hardy's going to end up being pretty good, I think. I just don't know how ready he is year one to take a ton of, run from this team. Michael Kerr says, Raps fans know what we got with Kawhi and we happy, but Masai not trading away any more loyal squad guys for one and dones. Well, the nice thing is Kevin Durant's under contract for 4 years, Michael. So he's not a one and done. If he demands out, you could trade him and recoup assets. So there's not necessarily like we're done with it, but we're just renting him. It's you've got him for 4 years. So, I mean, Michael Kerr, your team right now is going to get out rebounded. So, like, that's kind of the issue with having Precious Achiuwa as your starting center is you're not going to be the best rebounding team in the league. That's obvious, I think. It's not because of Kevin Durant. It's not because of OG Anunoby or Siakam. It's just because your center isn't a big-time rebound guy. And Raptors fans laughed at me when I said signing Andre Drummond to come off the bench would be valuable because he averages like 10 rebounds per 24 minutes or something. That's very valuable, and I think the Raptors would have done really well signing him, but he went to Chicago, of course, as well. So, I thought that Drummond would have been a really good pickup, but it is what it is. I mean, I think Toronto's in a good spot even if they don't make the trade for Kevin Durant. I just think that their ceiling gets a lot higher if they do, and their floor really doesn't go down, in my opinion. Nas King says, should Boston move Brown after the failed trade offer for KD because of chemistry issues? No, they should not. What they should do is basically tell him, hey, wink, wink, we're going to give you the max when you become a free agent. So don't go anywhere. We're not actually looking to trade you. We'd love to have you be a part of this organization for the next decade. You're a Boston Celtic for life, hopefully, and you and Jason Tatum are going to, raise banner 18. Michael Kerr says 4 perimeter players and Precious is bad for biz. I'd rather Spicy and Precious for rebounding. Let's just pull up Pascal Siakam rebound numbers just because I think we need to kind of discuss this a little bit here. Siakam this past year averaged 8.5 rebounds a game, which was the highest of his career. The next closest was 7.2, and Kevin Durant has multiple times in his career grabbed 8 rebounds a game. The last year he grabbed 7.5 rebounds, and Kevin Durant is also a much better playmaker. He would help the Raptors half-court offense tremendously. Scotty Barnes is going to continue to get better physically. He's going to become a better rebounder. And I just think that ultimately Kevin Durant is just so good that you can't argue that. And I'm not even a Kevin Durant guy. I don't like Kevin Durant that much, but he's too good to pass up on if you have the opportunity. Michael Kerr says we should have gotten Drummond, though. You're right. Watch out for Koloko, though. I hope Koloko plays well. I wasn't a fan of him at Arizona, but I think part of that is because I was like watching him trying to be the second best player there in Arizona, and I just don't think he was capable of that. But maybe as like the 7th, 8th guy there in Toronto, he could actually fit pretty well. So I'm hoping that it works out. The one guy I really like for you guys, though, Ron Harper Jr. He's a big body. I think he was a phenomenal signing. As a UDFA, I was shocked that he was undrafted. I had a first-round grade on him. I thought he was a first-round level player, and I think it's going to end up shaking up that way. And, of course, it's Toronto, the team that is so smart. Masai Ujiri, one of the smartest executives in the entire league, that diagnoses that and finds a guy in undrafted free agency because he is, when you're looking at, Ron Harper Jr., he's smart, he's good positionally, he's going to be a great team defender. Like, I think he's going to have a really nice impact for Toronto down the road as well, which is awesome. And, of course, Toronto is the team that unearths him, just like they did with Van Vliet, who I was shocked when Van Vliet went undrafted. I was a teenager when that happened, but crazy stuff. But Kevin Durant definitely would be legit, like you're saying, Michael. Glad to have you in here, by the way, everyone who is taking some time to watch the stream. Let's go ahead quick and talk about some of the upcoming stuff here. Like I teased earlier, we're going to have some announcements coming up here that I'm really excited for. So let's kind of get into some of the upcoming videos. Now, this isn't necessarily all the announcements, but this is some of the stuff I'm planning on talking about here coming up soon. We're going to do some team season previews. We're going to talk about what each team can be, kind of minute breakdown, what I expect from this team, this, that, and everything else in between. We're going to talk a lot about pretty much every single team in the league. So maybe on some of my other videos, once we get some of these rolling out there, maybe comment which team you'd like to see, and I'll try and get to them as soon as possible. I am starting pretty early here, right? The season doesn't really start until around October-ish. My plan is to start here in August so that I can hopefully cover all 30 NBA teams. We're also going to look at some scouting profiles for some of the prospects, right? We already have one up for Victor Wembanyama. My plan is to do a Scoot Henderson one next, probably Nick Smith Jr., who's going to be playing his college ball at Arkansas. And then go on down the list from there. Maybe we'll cover the Baylor kid and maybe get out to Oregon with Khalil Ware. We'll get to everybody. Don't worry about that. But scouting profiles. Now, here's where the question is. I want to know, do you guys want to see in real life hooping videos? Me playing some basketball, maybe doing some pickup stuff, all that. Nas King, that's a hilarious comment here with Kenneth Lofton, starting power forward for Memphis, 100%. I love that. For Kerr here, he says Jared Culver or Juancho Hernan Gomez. Juancho is just much better. And then Cooper says, do the Kings have one more big trade to pull off? I feel like adding OG or Harris could be huge for them. No, they don't, because they can't trade a first rounder until 2027 because of the Kevin Huerter trade, which is one of the most debilitating trades in recent memory for a role player. I just was shocked when they made that move. Not that he's a bad player or anything, Cooper, but they don't have any flexibility anymore. So unfortunately, I don't think that they'll have a move coming up. So let me know, do you want to see in real life hooping videos? Also, I've been thinking about doing some coaching focused live streams. For those of you who do not know, I'm also a high school basketball coach in addition to my other job and YouTube here. So I'm very busy doing a bunch of different things all the time. So let me know, do you want to see some coach focused live streams where maybe I break down some film or talk about, play designs, play sets, that kind of stuff? We could kind of plan certain things around that. My plan is also to have highlight videos coming out on the channel of some NBA content, some of the best dunks, best passes in NBA history, that kind of stuff. And I'm also open to more suggestions. So that's kind of the rough outline, rough plan of some of the stuff that's coming up here soon on the channel. And we have a lot of new stuff in terms of long-term plans as well that's going to really change the channel for the better. No More King says, heck yeah, I'd watch some basketball videos. Also looking forward to team breakdowns for each team. Glad to hear that. I'm really excited about the overall, kind of trajectory of the channel. I think those season previews are going to be a big part of it for the next month or month and a half or so. Atlanta Alice says, yeah, Sheldon, for sure. I'd love to see that. Awesome. We'll try and get some stuff. I've got some old footage right now that's about a year and a half old. I was in better shape back then too, so I was actually, throwing down a little bit and jumping a little bit higher than I am right now. I've kind of, gotten back into a routine of, bulking and not trimming like I should be, and not bulking in the best way. So I'm not as bouncy as I used to be, but I definitely can go out there and still play a bit. Benjito says, Sheldon, be breaking those ankles. I'm trying to. Those are, I've been there, done that a little bit, but sometimes the cameras aren't rolling, so definitely a little bit of a tough situation. Rafael David de Jesus Durant says, KD, yes. Well, we've talked about KD a little bit. I think the Raptors, Rafael, are the team that are most likely to make a move for him. No More King says, play breakdowns would be sweet. These are all great ideas. Glad to hear it. I've also, could talk about, for me, I come up with plays all the time. I draw stuff up during games. I draw stuff up during timeouts. Whenever I have time, honestly, sometimes I'll be literally at a restaurant with my girlfriend or something, and something will pop up in my head, and I'll literally draw it on my phone the moment I think of it, so I don't forget it. And I would love to share some of those things with you, because I talk about, conceptually, what do you try and exploit in matchups, and if you know what a team is going to try to do to you, how do you beat it? And like you said, we could, take this to the NBA. And really talk about how to exploit certain matchups in the NBA. We could definitely do some of that stuff. Michael Kerr says, as a coach, can you do your takes on what each team needs to fix on offense, defense to be successful on and off court? Yeah, we could do some of that stuff. It'll be a little bit more difficult to really figure out exactly which teams to cover for that, but we'll take some looks at stuff. It's going to depend too on we're kind of making a little bit of a change here too for some of the content that we're going to ingest onto the channel, if that makes sense. Hopefully, you guys understand what I'm saying there. But we're going to have some different looks at certain things is the hope here. The Struggle Sneakerhead says, for sure, don't want to see you play ball. Wow, that's rough. Okay. Well, we got a hater there. Not actually. He's been watching the channel for a long time. But I get it. Leave it to the pros, right? The Atlanta Analyst says, I see you working in a front office one day for sure, man. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Honestly, I've been thinking more and more about it, and I think I would prefer to actually coach over being in a front office the more I've thought about it. But I'm not opposed to either, honestly. No More King says, expose your high school team to early end one. Hot sauce and professor highlights. Yeah, literally. That's what we're going to have to do. No, I don't quite have handles like those guys. The dribbling like hot sauce and professor, I don't quite have handles like them. I'm more of a footwork guy, where I beat people with pivots and that kind of stuff. So, we'll get to that. Raphael says, KD to the Lakers definitely could be interesting. I don't think that's going to happen, but Durant on the Trailblazers would be sick for sure. I think that Durant going to Portland would definitely be crazy. We'll see if something happens. I think it would be really tough for Portland to facilitate a trade like that, but you never really know. The Struggle Sneakerhead says you look more like a Quidditch player right now, maybe a haircut. Sometimes the hair usually stays back, but it's been kind of fighting me today, so sorry about it. But obviously you're seeming a little upset with my hair, but I think my hair looks pretty all right. I got a little bit of a mullet coming in the back. It's a little bit different, but it's the longest my hair's ever been, so I'm going to let it grow for a little bit here. My girlfriend likes it, so that's what I got to do. Michael Kerr says headband. Yeah, I've got a headband. It's upstairs, though, so I'm going to leave that up there. And here we have a question from Nas King. Says, will Donovan Mitchell be moved and to who? We're going to talk about them in just a second. Latinx Travel Club says, could see Sheldon, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards for the Minnesota Pro League. Yeah, should we pull that off? Maybe get in touch with D'Angelo Russell and Ant and maybe go to work with him. Michael Kerr's giving me the Adam Morrison comp. Oh boy, that's a rough one. Hopefully I don't kind of follow the same career path as him in terms of some of the decisions he made. But that's where we're at. And Struggle Sneaker has just given me a little bit of crap here. He says, nah, it's luxurious, bro. So, well, thank you for that. We're working on it. My plan is I want it down to my shoulders, so we'll see if we can get it there. But if it starts, like right now, it's kind of in the awkward phase where it won't really do what I want with it. Like, part of it is, too, I didn't put any product in, which I should have since I knew I was live streaming. But it is what it is. Atlanta Analyst says, as long as Sheldon's girlfriend likes it, then it's okay. That's the truth. As long as the girlfriend's happy, I'm happy. That's the best way to live your life, gentlemen. Make sure the girl's happy, and then you'll end up being happy as well. Best life to live. I fully believe that. So as long as she likes it, I'm going to be living my best life there. So I'm going to put those video ideas up on the channel. So make sure you guys stay tuned for some of those over the next, couple weeks or month and a half or so, probably when some of those videos are going to be coming through, and we're getting a little bit of agreement there with some of the facts I was spitting out just a minute ago, which is 100% true. But let's get back to the question here from Nas King earlier about Donovan Mitchell. And as you can see, I had Donovan Mitchell kind of ready to talk about. We have a little bit of a banner here talking about Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, and this team is going to be really bad. The Utah Jazz are really terrible right now, and they don't have any chance at all of really being good. Right now, they don't really have a good starting center. They have a bevy of role players who are going to have to step up big time. They're going to probably look to trade Bojan Bogdanovic. They're going to look to trade Mike Conley. And we'll see if there's anything there that's going to actually help them make a move. And Donovan Mitchell is really the big one, right? We're going to see, does Donovan Mitchell get traded? I have a video up on the channel that talks about where he's going to get dealt. And it's pretty clear. It's the New York Knicks. Donovan Mitchell will be a New York Knick within the next year. And honest to God, I think that it probably could happen in the next 30 days. Donovan Mitchell should get traded within the next 30 days, especially if you're the Utah Jazz. And if you're going to tank, if you're going to try and get Victor Wembanyama, trading Donovan Mitchell is going to help you get there. Trade him to New York. Please, Utah, Danny Ainge. If you're watching this right now, Danny Ainge, trade Donovan Mitchell to the New York Knicks. Trust me, that's what you want to do. You want to get New York Knicks unprotected first-round picks, especially when they're going to be locking themselves into a guard combo of Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. Please, please, please trade Donovan Mitchell to the New York Knicks. Get 4 or 5 first-round picks. Get Evan Fournier and then reroute him somewhere later. Get some of these guys. And then at the deadline, you could make a whole bunch of other moves and sell everybody off. Trade Bojan Bogdanovic right now. Trade Mike Conley. Trade everybody. If you're going to do what you did and trade Rudy Gobert, there is no point in competing. Rudy Gobert was the best player on the Utah Jazz, and I don't even think it was particularly close. And now they're at the point where they don't have the guy that was literally the entire makeup of their defense. And they have to figure out a way to try and be competitive. They have a rookie head coach in Will Hardy, who I think was a good hire. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a smart basketball guy. But there's a lot of deficits on this team that he's going to have to try and overcome to even win 35, 40 games. So trade Donovan Mitchell to New York. Go full tank mode. Decide that you're going to lock up a lot of draft selections. You already have 4 from the Minnesota Timberwolves over the next 8 years. Get 4 or 5 more from the New York Knicks here, whether they come via the Pistons or the Bucks or whatever teams you're getting the picks from. Make a move with the New York Knicks. Get their draft assets. Trade Donovan Mitchell. Place him where he wants to be. Rebuild this thing from the ground up. Be like Sam Presti, but way better, because Danny Ainge is going to do it better than Sam Presti did it. Now, Sam Presti's in a really good spot right now. The Thunder, they've ended up working out pretty well. We'll see if they ever get the number one type of guy that they need. I think that they've got a lot of really good ancillary pieces right now in Holmgren and Giddey, and I think Trey Mann can play off the bench pretty well, that kind of stuff. But realistically, Utah's going to have a shot at Wembanyama. They're going to have a shot at some of the best young guys coming up down the road. Michael says Rudy was 3rd, 4th best in a liability. As much as he won Defensive Player of the Year, they need some cutthroat players to change softy culture. Clarkson, Boogie, Bogdanovich, and Conley out. I think that Rudy was the best player on the team. I firmly believe that. Without Rudy Gobert, that team would not have been a playoff team, which is why they're going to miss the playoffs this year. They're going to be really bad. They're going to be a 12, 13 seed at best. They're probably going to be a 14, 15 seed if they trade Donovan Mitchell. And that's not a surprise, because when you trade the guy who is 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and your defense falls apart, it's going to be awesome. No More Kings 1 says, I'm so happy my Pistons finally have a direction again. I can finally laugh at teams that are in terrible positions. I mean, yeah, the Pistons, I think, are in a really great spot. Nas King says, how you like backcourt of Brunson and D. Mitch with no size? I don't. I don't like it. I don't think the Knicks really become that good with Donovan Mitchell. That's kind of the point here, is I think that Utah would be in a really good spot because they would trade Mitchell to New York, leave him there with Brunson. The Knicks probably don't even make the second round of the playoffs, and you have all these picks from them. That's why I think this is so perfect for Utah. I think that they need to trade Donovan Mitchell because I think Donovan Mitchell's overrated. No More Kings 1 says, going back to the Pistons here, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, those 2 guys are going to be great. I loved their draft. Michael Kerr says, Joe Ingles and injuries hurt them. It definitely did. They had a good team, but they just couldn't capitalize. I thought they could have been a team that looked to buy, and instead they traded Royce O'Neal, they traded Rudy Gobert, and now they're at a spot to lose. Raphael says, Knicks cry. Yeah, like the Knicks aren't in a great spot either. I think that they positioned themselves pretty well this offseason. Getting Jalen Brunson the way that they did was pretty clever. They were able to get future first-round picks in a bunch of deals. They're in a pretty decent spot for sure. But realistically, I think that if they cash their chips in on Mitchell, I don't know. I wouldn't cash my chips in on Donovan Mitchell. Benjito says, suffering Hornets fan noises. Yeah, right now is kind of a weird time to be a Hornets fan. Kind of bringing back one of your former coaches in Steve Clifford. That's a little weird. And then also just the fact that, the whole Miles Bridges thing kind of played out the way that it did. Oddly enough, though, their qualifying offer did not actually get officially pulled to Bridges. So it seems like if Bridges is ever going to play in the NBA again, we're going to see him probably with Charlotte, which is very weird. Nas King says, rip the Hornets franchise. Michael says, Mitchell to Charlotte for Scary Terry and probably quite a few draft picks. And again, if I'm Charlotte, I just don't really think I want to do that. Atlanta Analyst says, why not trade the picks along with Randall and young guys for KD? Because Brooklyn won't do that. So that's a great question, because you think, in terms of value in the draft assets, that they should do it. It's like if the Clippers had a really good player, though, they would not trade him to the Lakers, just because you have that in-state, in-city rivalry there a little bit, where especially for the Nets perspective, the Nets are the little brothers, so they don't want to help the big brother Knicks look really good again and look really functional and talented and good. They want the Knicks to be bad there in Brooklyn, so they are not going to go help them out. I understand the idea there, but I think ultimately I would not be trading Kevin Durant to New York if I'm Brooklyn either. Raphael says Kyrie Irving. Talking about the Lakers here, Raphael. I think if Kyrie's going to play somewhere other than Brooklyn this year, it will be Los Angeles. Jonah Ramirez says Zion and a first for Kevin Durant. they can't do that until at least January because of the extension that Zion Williamson signed. So that can't happen for a long time, and I do not think that the Pelicans would or should do that. Michael Kerr says Mitchell to Washington or Sacramento then. Like I said, Sacramento cannot trade a first until 2027, so Sacramento's kind of out. And Washington, that's an interesting spot because they have the pieces to probably make a move like that. I'm just not exactly sure what player or collection of players goes back to Utah. Maybe it'd be like Avdia, Kispert, and then maybe, cap filler, which is interesting. And then, probably 4 first rounders, 3 pick swaps, something like that, which is an overpay. I could see Tommy Shepard looking to do something like that. I'm just not exactly sure if that's actually going to, swing the needle or really move the needle and get the deal done there. I think that realistically, the Knicks are in the driver's seat for Donovan Mitchell. And I think at the end of the day, like I said in a video like a month ago, Donovan Mitchell will be a New York Knick at some point for sure. I just would be shocked, honestly, if he isn't. He likes New York. He's from there. He's a big Mets fan. He coincidentally likes the blue and orange, which is a weird color combo to like, but he does because he likes the Mets, and he'll ultimately wear a Knicks jersey at some point and be really happy there. Jonah Ramirez says DeJounte's a weirdo. A little bit. I mean, it's kind of funny, though, the whole Paulo Banchero beef. It was kind of funny with what DeJounte was saying. It was a little weird when DeJounte was trying to throw the ball off that one guy's head, though. That was a little strange. Jay, welcome to the stream. He says, "How you been?" I've been doing really well. I know I've been taking a little bit of a hiatus from YouTube. So Jay, I'm glad to see you back in the stream here with me. We're gonna have a lot of great content coming out. You can see some of the upcoming video ideas down on the bottom line here. So a lot of fun stuff that'll be coming out on the channel. So Jay, really glad to have you back in here. I'm rooting for your Pistons this year. I really am. I'm a big Cade Cunningham guy. I'm a big Jaden Ivey guy. And you guys know I love Jalen Durant. So there are 3 great young players. Are all players I'm a fan of. So it's going to be hard for me to not root for Detroit. I'm probably going to get one of those throwback jerseys, with the teal. I'll probably get one of those of Jaden Ivey, which I'm excited for. Michael Kerr says he's been injured for years in San Antonio, and now he's snapping. I mean, yeah, he had a really good year last year, though. He averaged about 21, 8, and 8, I think, or something, which is definitely good. Caleb says, would you trade B.I., Herb, picks, etc. for Kevin Durant if you're the Pels? No, I would not. Just because you're New Orleans, and if you trade all that for Kevin Durant and say Zion Williamson gets hurt again, and Kevin Durant decides, hey, I don't really like living in New Orleans, I don't know if I want to give up all my long-term flexibility and a really good young player in Brandon Ingram and another good young player in Herb Jones to get Kevin Durant. It just scares me. So I would err on the side of caution, probably. Jonah here says, when should we expect a sharp decline for LeBron? That's an interesting question. I think it's this year. I don't think so. LeBron is too smart, too talented, too good. He's like when he's 45 years old, he would be one of the better point guards in the league because he'd be 6'7", 6'8". He'd be strong, takes too much care of his body. And honestly, he is someone who sees the game so well. So there's really not going to be ever like a huge sharp decline for LeBron. At some point, he'll probably be down to averaging like only 20 a game, which is still crazy. Like most players wish they could average 20, and that'll be like his decline year will be averaging 20. I don't think there's going to be a real sharp decline for LeBron ever, honestly, which I know sounds crazy, but I think he'll retire before that sharp decline ever comes. Raphael wants to know about Seth Curry. He could probably be included with Kyrie in the deal to the Lakers. Jay Anderson says, in my opinion, I think the teal jerseys are overrated, but that's me. I get that. There's a lot of buzz and hype around them, 100%. So I get what you're saying there. And don't get me wrong, the white, blue, and red does look very clean, especially in your profile picture there of Jaden Ivey. That does look nice. But they're so iconic that it's hard to not, as a fan of another team, not necessarily a Pistons fan myself. Like if I'm going to get one, I kind of want to get one that's like unique and different. So I think that's why I would opt that way. But I definitely think you're kind of right about that. No More King says the Pistons teal gear is so sick. Primarily the dark horsepower flaming tailpipes logo. It suits the Motor City so well. Yeah, that's the one thing I really like about them, especially the fact that when they went to their, they've got their logo right now, which is the basketball, and it says Detroit Pistons on it. Like the one thing about that, about their current logo, is it just like it doesn't tie into the name Pistons at all. Like you think about the Mavericks, their logo has a horse. The Rockets logo has a rocket on it. Like. I wish the Pistons, like, if they had some sort of way of, having like a piston look to it, it would be awesome. But I get it. Michael Kerr says Mitchell for Spencer Dinwiddie, Davis Bertans, and picks. That's a funny comment there because that's what the Mavs traded Kristaps Porzingis for. And like ultimately, I don't think anything's gonna come out of that. Main 2K says Pistons are not good. He's a hater there. I can't tell what team that his thumbnail is, though. Let me see if I can see that. I'm trying to see exactly what that is. Main 2K. Can anyone tell what that is? I'm trying to look here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Oh, he's a Celtics fan. Yeah. Just kidding. Little Tree, welcome to the stream. He says, do you think KD would tank his trade value so he could get out of Brooklyn sooner? No, he's not going to tank his trade value. What he would do is he would just say he would like make it really tough for the Nets to keep him. He would like miss training camp or be kind of a jerk during practices, probably not listen to Steve Nash, kind of do his own thing. And he would basically make it so unlivable that they have to trade him. He wouldn't play bad intentionally. He would just go out and do his own thing. Make sure you guys smash that like button as well. And let's talk about NBA 2K23 for just a second here. I know this is a little bit different. I'm just messing with you, Maine. I'm just messing with you. Just so you know. Hopefully you didn't take that too serious. So it's kind of funny to me though. But let's talk about NBA 2K23 just for a second because I do want to gauge your guys' interest on something. So I'm planning on getting the game right when it comes out and everything. And, I play Pro-Am with my buddies and we actually take it pretty serious. So would you guys want to see NBA 2K23 videos like a build creation, maybe some My Career stuff? Would you want to see us playing Pro-Am? We could live stream over on Twitch that you guys could watch that because we got some options for sure. So let me know what you guys want on that. Let's get a little bit of a NBA 2K23 comment train going. Comment your thoughts on NBA 2K23 on the channel. Let me know if you wanna know. Main 2K says Brooklyn wants Smart, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and picks. They're crazy. Yeah, that's just too much. They can't do all that. And 2K says it's fine. I know. Okay, good. Sometimes I'm trying to be like pretty obvious that I'm joking and everything, but you never know if your tone comes through correctly to people that, when you're not actually talking to them face to face, sometimes some of that stuff gets missed. So I want to make sure you guys are cool. No More King says I would watch. Okay, cool. Jay Anderson says I just hope it's worth it. Talking about, I think if you're talking about the gaming, maybe. Atlanta Alice says, yeah, for sure. That'd be cool. Do that. It'd be cool. All right, sick. Well, maybe look at that. TX Rose says, yes, a lot of 2K content is really boring, but I feel like yours would be really unique. I would watch. Awesome. Well, we're pretty try hard in Pro-Am. I think 2K20 it was. I was a bucket back in 2K20. I was averaging like 25 points a game in Pro-Am, which is insane, honestly, to be averaging that much. Main 2K says 2K23 current gen is supposed to be horrible, I've heard. Yeah, I think most of the reason why is most people have upgraded to next gen. Next gen's just about to become the current gen anyway. Like a year from now, people are going to start calling what is currently referred to as next gen current gen because it's been out now for 2 years. It's about to be out for its third NBA 2K. So it's getting to that point where they're going to stop paying attention to the PS4 and the Xbox One. LAFK says Brooklyn not getting that. Yeah, that's just way too much to give up for Kevin Durant. You just can't do that. Raphael says NBA 2K23 LeBron James. So let's actually talk about my so he's talking about rebuilds too. Okay, so Struggle Sneakerhead says I'll def watch rebuilds. We'll try and do some of that too on the channel. I think that could be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll live stream some of that, or maybe we'll maybe I could cut them up into videos too. It depends. Okay, sick. Jander says I'll talk the game. I'll watch him play. Okay, sick. Main 2K says I'd like to see MLB The Show if you're into MLB. I am actually. we have this franchise. We're about 7 years into the future. I'm still playing on MLB 21, the show, just because the new game really didn't add anything, and I didn't want to switch from Matt Vasgersian yet, the play-by-play announcer on there. So I played, still playing MLB 21, the show, with my buddy, but we're 7 years in. I actually have a player who just won the Triple Crown, and I mostly sim. So it was actually crazy, but I was kind of hoping, but it was a little bit too late into the franchise kind of to start this, since, I started the franchise like 24 months ago almost, or 18 months ago or something, whenever MLB The Show 21 came out. But Banjito says, 2K to me is like golf, fun to play, but pretty boring to watch. I get that too. And but don't worry, too, if you're not like in love with the idea of doing 2K. It's not like every video is all of a sudden going to become 2K. I'm not trying to be anybody else on YouTube who does only 2K stuff. I'm just saying, like, every once in a while, throw in a 2K video, just for some of you who are interested. No More King says, I played 2K11 until 2K19, where I'm currently at. Wow, you've been grinding back on the 2K19 game, huh? Well, you should get 2K23. It looks like it's going to be a really good game. LAFK says, who's your top 5 teams going into the new season? Not in any particular order here, but my top 5, you have to include Milwaukee. You have to include Golden State. I think you have to include the Los Angeles Clippers. I think those 3 are pretty safe up there. I think the Boston Celtics are right there. And then I think the Dallas Mavericks are probably my 5th team, which, yes, I'm a Mavericks fan. I do not think I'm biased, though. They got a lot better this offseason, even losing Jalen Brunson. They got more athletic. They got more size. They kind of improved all the areas that they were bad at last year. So, and they're going to get Tim Hardaway Jr. back, which I think is huge as well. Larry Hoover says, KD had personal decisions and bad quotes. Screwed his value and legacy as a basketball player. I think his pairing as a man with Kyrie affected him the worst. 3 years of just pure drama. Yeah, this last 3 years have not been good at all. Jay Anderson says, is the championship edition worth it? NBA League Pass for the whole regular season? I get that. It's not bad, to be honest. So I already have NBA League Pass, which is why I'm not going to be getting the championship edition, because I already split League Pass with a buddy, since, there's a 2-person subscription you can do for $300. So him and I split it for all 30 teams, which is really good, really valuable, because I, watch probably 2 or 3 games a night, honestly. And then some nights when there's no games on, I'll go back and watch an old game that I missed. So there's a lot of value to NBA League Pass. So if you don't have it, Jay, I highly recommend getting League Pass, because League Pass alone, I spend $150 a year on League Pass, because it is so good. It is so valuable. So much fun to watch. I love NBA League Pass. TX Rose says, I just wish sports games were more realistic about player movement and sim. You sim 5 years and now LeBron is on the Thunder. Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues, right? Like, all this crazy stuff happens. But at the same time, think about 5 years ago, DeMar DeRozan was a Toronto Raptor. Who would have thought he'd be a Chicago Bull now, right? So, it's hard, but that's kind of where, what you're looking at. Atlanta Alice says Atlanta's not on the list. They're not quite, but Atlanta's good. I think that the DeJounte Murray addition was way, way better than people are giving it credit for. DeJounte Murray is pretty much everything that Atlanta was missing in a lot of ways. Lil Tree here says, who are your first-time All-Stars this year? So I think, Zion Williamson has a good shot at it, because he is hopefully going to be healthy this time around. I think when you look at other players around the league, Jaylen Brown's made the All-Star game a few times. I don't think De'Aaron Fox will make it. This is a really good question, actually. Let me give that a little bit of thought, Little Tree, and then we'll come back to it. I think Anthony Edwards for sure will make it this year, probably. I think LaMelo Ball made it last year, I believe, so he doesn't really count. Main 2K says, how much is the League Pass, or how much is League Pass include with the game? So League Pass with the game, I think the Legend Edition is like $150 itself. So I think you get the game and the League Pass. But the one thing is, I don't know how League Pass specifically works, if it's a single team, because League Pass itself is, you can get a single team for $120, or you can get the entire league for $250, which is what I did. And then I added a $50, premium on top of that, to have 2 people being able to watch the account at the same time, because I split it with my co-content creator here on the channel. So that's kind of the overview. Again, I don't really know too much about what the actual package looks like from NBA 2K. Larry Hoover says, as a former pro player from Europe, I advise you to watch some Euro Championship games that will be next month, and plus the Euro League. You'll find many positives and grow as a coach and scout. I already do quite a bit. I've been keeping up with some things overseas quite a bit. I watch a lot of the NBL, which I know isn't quite the same as the Euro League. It's obviously a way different league and everything, but like I completely agree with you that just watching any form of basketball is really good. Sorry there, I had to yawn and sneeze real quick, so I removed myself from the stream there for a second. But that way, if you guys are wearing headphones, you didn't get your ears blasted. But I think you're right there, Larry. With when it comes to just watching other stuff, like EuroLeague is very valuable. Watching Shane Larkin go cook over there, it's a different game. Some of the way that they work out of 4-out, 5-out sets, the way that they are trained to move the ball a little bit quicker. It's less iso ball, a little bit less stand and play off of one guy. It's different, but it's definitely a good play. So Larry, thanks for that. And I encourage that to all of you guys as well. All of you in here, if you don't watch a lot of EuroLeague or NBL, CEBL, some of that stuff, it's definitely a positive. Banjito says Zion already made an All-Star team in year 2. Did he make the All-Star team? I don't remember. Did he? Let me look into that, because I know his numbers were good. Did he actually make like the team itself? Oh yeah, he did. Okay, excuse me on that. I was just mistaken. I did not think he made the All-Star game. One little confession here is I usually don't watch the All-Star game that closely. I turn it on, but I'm usually like kind of working on other stuff. Like last year during the All-Star game, I was working on videos. So I sit here and I kind of have the game on. I kind of like glance up at it every once in a while during the All-Star game, just because it's a little bit less important. Jay Anderson says Pistons are a top 5 team coming in the year. JK, that's a funny comment there. Pistons, I think they're going to be really good down the road, though. So even though obviously they're not a top 5 team this year, like you're saying as well, that. But I think 3-4 years from now we could be talking about them kind of in that conversation. I really believe that. Nav says Magic drafted a good one. Yes, they did. Paulo Banchero, very good player. I thought he was a good fit for that team, and I think he's going to do some really good stuff there in Orlando. Main 2K says, are you into pro wrestling like WWE or AEW? I am actually not. I do not watch very much wrestling. Growing up, I watched a little tiny bit, but I never really got into it as much. I've been more of a traditional sport type of fan where I watch. Basketball is my favorite sport, and it's not even close. But on Sundays, I'll throw on football, and I actually work at a place right now where I'm covering the MLB. So my job lets me watch sports. I watch sports at work, and not like I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm actually I work at a sports company, so and a pretty big one. You guys would all know who they are. I'm not going to say them though, because I don't really want to talk about work too much. But at work I get to do sports, which is very nice. But it also makes it a little hard because I do sports stuff all day, and then I come home and I'm like, oh, do I want to do more sports stuff recording on YouTube? Most of the time I usually do want to, because I love sports that much, but sometimes I'm like, I should maybe take a little tiny break from this, especially when the girlfriend's around. I want to make sure that I'm paying enough attention to that lovely woman. So No More King says, warm take. Pistons only need one more year, 2 tops. I think that is a warm take, especially the 1 year. I think that, Cade Cunningham in year 3 is going to be awesome. I think Jaden Ivey in year 2 is going to be really good. I still think that team probably needs 2, maybe 3 years to really make that big jump. Struggle Sneakerhead says Rockets, OKC, and Detroit will own 2030s. Yeah, those 3 teams are probably going to be pretty good toward the 2028 to 2033 window. Those 3 teams are going to be pretty darn good. Jay Anderson says, what do you think about the Jazz? Jazz are really bad right now. Their team is really terrible. They don't have anyone who can defend. Yes, I know they have Patrick Beverley, and yes, I'm going to reiterate, they don't have anyone who can defend. For the most part, Beverley has his moments, but certain matchups he just gets dominated. So I don't know. He's not like an all-world defender like some people think he is. And for Utah, I think I like that their direction is going to be rebuilding once they trade Mitchell. If they were trying to retool around Mitchell, I think it would have been terrible. But if they're going to trade Mitchell, I think that will be a good outcome for them for sure. We are going to stay live here just for a couple more minutes. I was just planning on going live for an hour today. I'm planning on recording some more content after the stream today as well. Some stuff to watch for tomorrow. And since we have a lot of Pistons fans in here, maybe we'll start with a Pistons season preview for you guys. That's probably what I'll try and plan to record for, that'll be out for sure by Thursday. It'll depend on kind of what we're doing. I'm switching up the way I'm recording and some of the stuff. So a little bit of different software usage and stuff like that. So it'll be a little bit different, but I think it'll be better quality, better content. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Larry Hoover says the Golden State Warriors last year hired Dejan Milojevic, the Serbian coach that developed Jokic, and pay attention how much better the post game of Wiseman will be. He's a pure genius of a coach. I hope you're right. I think Wiseman's a player who needs a lot of work yet. All the tools are there. We'll see if something actually comes around, though. Jay Anderson clearly excited about the idea of a Pistons season preview. We'll get to that for sure. That's what we'll plan on doing, and then we're gonna go from there. Team we're probably gonna cover last is the Brooklyn Nets, because I do not want to put a ton of time in on a Brooklyn Nets season preview and have it scheduled for like 3 days in advance, and then all of a sudden Kevin Durant gets traded, my whole video gets thrown in the garbage. I do not want to do that. So let's plan on the Nets being the 30th team I record for. Lil Tree says, if the Lakers big three can stay healthy, are they a top 5 team in the West? That's a really good question. If they can stay healthy, I think they're probably a 6 or 7. Honestly, probably 7, to be honest with you, which is okay. It's not bad. If they stay healthy, and I'm not saying like, oh, they all play 82 games. I'm saying like healthy, like, Davis plays 72, LeBron plays 72 games, Russ plays 80 games because he's more durable than everybody else in the league, basically. So for me, I think that they can be a top 7 seed. I don't think they can be a top 5 seed though. That's kind of my thought. Jay says Golden State repeat. They're going to be one of the favorites for sure. I think the Clippers are my favorite to come out of the West, though. I just think that the Clippers are so deep, and that, like, the last time Kawhi Leonard missed an entire season, he came back the next year and was the best player in the world and won a championship. So we'll see if it has a similar impact this time around. He's looking like he's in really good shape. He's one of the best players in the world already, and coming off of a year to rest his body, rehab, get back in shape. I think he's going to be very dominant next season. And Paul George got to rest his legs as well with that elbow issue he had. So assuming he's healthy, he's had a whole offseason to recover and rehab as well, and missed most of last year. That team is going to be healthier than they normally are, and they're really deep. I don't even think the John Wall addition really matters that much, but I think they're going to be really good. Nav says, you sold on Steve Nash as a coach. No, I am not. I think Steve Nash is a very, very bad coach, actually. He doesn't really have an identity, right? He just kind of goes out there and plays willy-nilly, whatever. Little Tree wants to know, do I think Shea can average 25 to 30? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think he averaged 24 to 24 and a half-ish this past year. I don't know if someone can pull up the numbers there for me on Shea, but last year I'm pretty sure he averaged basically 25. So yeah, I think he's definitely capable of averaging that. He probably didn't even play 60 games last year because they always pull him out. But he's a really good player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. Back when, I wasn't doing YouTube yet at the point when Kawhi got traded, but my buddy's a Clippers fan, and out of everything that they traded, we were the most concerned about them trading Shai. I thought Shai was going to be really, really good when he came out of the draft. Again, this was before I was doing YouTube, unfortunately. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was one of my biggest hits. I thought he was a top 10 player in that class, and he's really played like it. So it's definitely awesome. Jay Anderson says, what do you think about the Detroit Tigers? I know it's baseball. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's baseball. We got 30 of us in here right now. It's fine. We'll just answer one quick question about the Tigers. I like some of their future when it comes to some of the players they have. Casey Mize, if he's healthy, Matt Manning, if he's healthy, they've got some pitching there. I also, Torkelson, even though he was hitting horrendously this year, like 198, I think, for most of the year, and he's back down in AAA right now. I think he's a good player. I think Riley Green is reliable as well. I think, it's going to be a little bit until they're back. I also like Skubal for them. They've got good players. We'll just see if they can ever really translate into winning, because baseball is one of those quirky sports where you can have good players, but it doesn't really mean you win. Baseball is very situational, so it's hard to really diagnose if the Tigers are ever going to be good, because the Twins are still good in that division. The Guardians are really playing above their pay grade right now, you would have to say. even after DFAing Franmil Reyes, which was kind of a surprise to me. They're in a definite good situation. Larry Hoover says LAC 23 champs. If healthy, best defense for playoffs. They have 7 to 8 players that can switch on every pick. I completely agree with that. Atlanta Analyst says put Steve Nash in a situation where he doesn't have just stars. He's going to be in the lottery. Yeah, he's going to be terrible. He'll probably be the worst team in the league, honestly. Little Tree says, are you buying or selling stock for the Kings? I am selling. I've been consistently selling stock since I was like 6 years old in the Kings, and they have not made me pay yet. So I am going to continue to sell stock. Where did the top 3 available free agents go? Melo, Sexton, Schroeder. Sexton's going to be a Cavalier next year. I don't really think there's any other options for him at this point. Melo might not play. And Schroeder, I could see Schroeder going back to the Lakers, honestly. Joshua says, no one wants Colin Sexton. Cavs lowball offer. That's what I think as well. I think Sexton's going to stay with Cleveland on, 2-year, $24 million deal with like a player option or, something weird on it. And then what I think is going to happen, this is a little bit of a sneak peek to maybe a future video. LeBron James will be rejoining the Cleveland Cavaliers about 12 months from now. LeBron is not going to extend with LA. He's not going to stay with the Lakers. LeBron is going to return to Cleveland to play with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and Darius Garland. And they're going to be very, very good. NBA Draft 2023 Lakers. For who they're going to look at it, I mean, I would need to spend a little bit more time looking at who, their contracts, and I don't even know if they really own their pick. Like, right now, I don't have the draft order memorized like I did for last year. So give me a little bit of time on that, Raphael, and we'll get back to that for sure. Michael Kerr says China for Melo, Sexton, and Schroeder. I think Sexton will stay here. I wouldn't be surprised if Melo and Schroeder ended up in China, though. Atlanta Analyst says Mavs should sign Schroeder. I could see him adding a little bit of bench value, but ultimately, I think if anything, the Mavs need another wing defender before they go out for a guard, honestly. Larry Hoover says Schroeder made the best financial decision ever last year. Wonder why he's not on Wall Street. Yeah, he passed up $84 million, and now he's sitting out in free agency. What a yikes. Jay Anderson says, what about Bronny? I think this is the beauty here for LeBron. He stays in LA. Bronny just played his last AAU game, right? So Bronny, let me see. Bronny's in high school yet this year, right? For one last year. Let me see. 19 and 20, 20 to 21, 21. Yeah, so Bronny's a senior this year in high school. So then that means he'll be going to I just think that Bronny's going to ultimately, Bronny needs a year in between high school and the NBA. So that's my thought. You need to have a year for LeBron to go somewhere, and I think Cleveland's the place. Michael Kerr says Dennis Smith Jr. to Toronto. We can develop him. I would like DSJ back in Dallas, honestly. No More King says that's a juicy take on LeBron back to Cleveland. I got to hear this. Yeah, we're going to have a video with talk about LeBron. Not with LeBron. I wish. We'll see if we can get LeBron on in a future video down the road. That would be crazy. Jay Anderson says wherever Bronny goes, I think LeBron's going to go. Definitely a fair point. Little Tree says buying or selling stock for Markelle Fultz. I'm going to... I don't want to buy or sell. Markelle Fultz is an average point guard. I'm not going to buy or sell his stock. No More King says he want to play with his son for sure. Yeah, I think he does. I just think that the timeline isn't perfect for this unless he signs a 1-year extension with the Lakers. But if I'm him, I'm not wasting any more time in LA. Michael Kerr says LeBron's going to end up coaching Bronny, not playing with them, pull a Jordan and come out of retirement. I think that makes sense. But realistically, I think he signs a 1-year deal with Cleveland next year, but we'll talk about that more in a future video. I do think I'm going to wrap up the stream, guys, but I do really appreciate each and every one of you stopping in here today. I know a little bit more of a casual stream. Go give us a follow on Twitter. Links in the description. I'll be shouting everyone out, and if you mention us in a tweet, I'll respond or like it or whatever. So go give us a follow on there. I'd love to have you guys be a part of what we do over on Twitter. We're growing that platform a little bit. Day after day, not really too much on anything right now. People are sleeping on Bryce. Bryce is going to be a very good player. I've been telling people this for a while. Then he finally hit his growth spurt, and now he's looking dangerous. So I always kind of believed in Bryce a little bit more than everyone else. So we'll see if something happens. LeBron to the Warriors. That's a funny comment. But thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you all so much. Really, really do appreciate each and every one of you taking time to stop in today, ask some great questions. I just love talking about the NBA. I'm going to go record some other content here now for the channel. But thanks, guys, so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.